Marquette, and we're so glad you're with us to stay curious today. We've got a program for you to talk about an astronaut birthday. We got a couple shuttles of August that are orbiting Earth at this date in space history we want to talk about. And we're going to talk about, despite the full moon, tonight and tomorrow night, you'll see more meteors than you'll see any other time of the year if you just are patient to look. And I'm going to tell you where to look and when to see the Perseid meteor shower during tonight's full moon that's called the Sturgeon Moon. And Marty and I were talking about what the full moon was, and maybe they ought to call it the crocodile full moon down here, Marty. But it's the Sturgeon full moon. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Also, on this date in history in 1962, the Soviet Union launched Vostok 3 with a cosmonaut on board whose wife would orbit the Earth a year later. And this man also rendezvoused with another spacecraft. The first two humans they didn't rendezvous, but they were in space at the same time. So we will help you. We want you to stay curious tomorrow, and we'll talk about Vostok 3 and Vostok 4 and those cosmonauts involved with that. But we've got a good show together here for you today. Let me grab my picture notes here. And of course, we are happy to celebrate. And you see I'm wearing a Chris Calley piece of artwork there called Gemini 4 Spacewalk. It is gorgeous. It feels great. And we've got the first orders already packed up and ready to ship out Friday. So stay tuned, and we can't wait for you to get into your communities and wear these beautiful shirts. The one I'm wearing is $25. Chris Calley has endorsed this with his family and his late father, Paul Calley. There is the Armstrong tee, just gorgeous. I'll probably buy me 2 of these. And Neil Armstrong suiting up on the back, CalleySpaceArt.com. On the neck there. And then Mr. Paul Calley's classic, Power to Go. This is the Saturn V rockets taking off in this beautiful oil masterpiece that just it exudes with the power of that Saturn V, all that red and orange. And this is such a great silk screen by our friends at T-Bone Designs. Rob down there took great care to do the best he could. You can see the brush strokes in this, and you'll love it. There's Power to Go on the back, and I'm wearing the Gemini 4 spacewalk that Chris Calley has done. This is not a photograph, folks. This is an awesome, beautiful, I think it's oil that he uses. But Chris, thank you for supporting our museum with this fundraiser, and we'll be getting those out Friday, so look forward to that next week, wearing these tees around town next weekend. And I'm going to a memorabilia show at Sands History Center at Port Canaveral this weekend, and we hope we'll sell out all the first run of these wonderful T-shirts. So, Marty, we've got a birthday to celebrate today, and this is the birthday of the 61st birthday of C.J. Sturtkow, former shuttle commander, and he's currently a Virgin Galactic pilot. Frederick Wilford C.J. I'll tell you about his nickname in a minute. It comes from him being a Marine. Hoorah, Marty. Frederick Wilford Sturtkow was born August 11th, 1961 in La Mesa, California, but he considers Lakeside, California to be his hometown. He became an astronaut in 1995, 4 shuttle missions, okay. All of these missions he flew. He docked at the International Space Station, making Sturtkow one of 2 people to visit the space station 4 times. And I don't know who the other one is. I've been trying to research that, Marty. We need to put that out there. Maybe you all know who's been to the space station 4 times. When he retired from NASA in 2013, he became a Virgin Galactic pilot. That is Sir Richard Branson's space plane that's carried up by the White Knight aircraft and then released. And he's going to fly Spaceship 2, basically be the Uber driver for tourists going up there. And Sir Richard Branson's just getting close to ramping up that operation for him in the New Mexico desert. Sturtko has done one suborbital flight. No, he's done two of them. Suborbital flights in that Virgin Galactic plane. His nickname CJ. What would that come from in the Marines, Marty? You think CJ? It was given to him when he was a young Marine because he resembled a squadron commander who was appropriately called Caustic. So they called him Caustic Jr. not too complimentary of a name if you're called Caustic. So anyway, happy 61st birthday, CJ Sturtkow. We love our shuttle astronauts in our communities every week doing things. There he is in his NASA blues there with the Mach 25 patch, the speed of the reentry. And there he is last year at a Virgin Galactic press conference. So CJ Sturtkow, good luck to you as a Virgin Galactic pilot. And Yves Plendeau has a ticket to ride with you, brother. So hello, Yves. I heard from you the other day. It's great to see you chime in there. You remember Yves Plendeau, Marty? He's got a ticket to ride on the Virgin Galactic, and that's another great program that you can watch on YouTube in our Stay Curious library. All right, where are we segueing next to? Where'd my pictures go? Oh, they're over here. All right, under the... Yes, we're going to talk about some shuttles of the month of August. 9 shuttles in August. All right, by the numbers, they were... Discovery had 5 of the 9, and then each of the other 4 orbiters just 1 mission. 74 days in space for our 5 orbiters, 53 crew members, 6 of them were women. 3 of these of the 9 were pre-Challenger disaster flights, the first 25. 5 of these missions of the 9 did what the shuttle was designed to do, deploy satellites for money in space. 3 of them were hard hat missions to the International Space Station. I call those missions where they're building the space station hard hats. And 2 ISS exchanges right there in the middle of 105 we're going to talk about in a minute. And 1 Department of Defense mission there, STS28 in the upper right-hand corner that is just conjecture what they did on that, but they know years later, that was in 1989, they know it was a spy satellite that went up. So we want to look at these missions a little bit quickly. We talked about the top secret STS28 earlier in the month with our good friend Mr. Jim Adamson on board that. What an iconic patch with the eagle being strong and flying the orbiter shuttle into the atmosphere there with, of course, the red, white, and blue of our flag. A very patriotic emblem there. And there's the crew. All right. You had Brewster Shaw is in the crew, because it was a military Department of Defense payload. They had a picture made in their military outfits, their uniforms. And Mr. Adamson there with the mustache was a West Pointer. Bernard Shaw there is seated in the middle. Pilot's Richard Richards. To his right, you've got David Leesma sitting down. That's Leesma.
Brewster Shaw, not Bernard.
Brewster Shaw?
You said Bernard.
Oh, Bernard. Okay, thank you. Did you run with him, Marty? Yeah, I thought that was one of the astronauts that Marty ran with. And Mark Brown's up there in the upper left-hand corner. Classified mission to protect our country, no doubt. And that was a mission in 1989. It was just 5 quick days up in space. Then we've got STS. Right now, these orbiters, all 4 of them, are orbiting the Earth in space history. 85 has got kind of a cartoonish looking, cool, stylized look there with the Earth and the sun and representing the missions that were going on here. This was a science mission. Atmospheric analysis was being done. There's the Krista Spa is that little wheel you see right there that they went out there. It was investigating Comet Hale-Bopp. There you see the comet up there, Hale-Bopp. So this was 1997 in August. And inside the payload bay are the different canisters of mission experiments going on. And here's the crew in space, all right. Wanted to show them off. Kerbeam. There is Curtis Brown's the pilot. Curtis has got the mustache in the upper right-hand corner. Below him is his pilot with a mustache, Romo, Kent Rominger. You got Jan Davis, all right, and Robert Kerbeam is the African-American beside her, and Stephen Robinson, and payload specialist Bjorn Tervesen, and he was from the Canadian Space Agency there. And they, that was a rather, well, how many days was that? That was a rather long 12 days in space there for Discovery on STS85 in 1997. And then STS105 we talked about the other day, where they took up 3 astronauts and brought back 3, actually an astronaut and 2 Russians, and a crew of 4. And there you see the 2 space shuttles up and down. The Russian flag is below and the American flag is above. And very interesting, folks, this was launched August 10th, all right, 2001, and brought back 12 days later. And they left up Frank Culbertson, all right. And Frank Culbertson was off the Earth looking down on September 11th, 2001, when America was attacked. And he took a very famous photo of the World Trade Towers in flames. And, of course, we'll be reprising that. But interesting, here a month before that tragedy, we launched a shuttle peacefully with the Russians in cooperation on our space station. And here are the crews. Let's go the right way, Mark. And that's the space. This is the crew that came back on the left, Expedition 2, Exchange Expedition 3 right there. This is the core of the crew that was up there. Scott Horowitz, Rick Sturtkow. That's right. I forgot to mention Sturtkow's birthday in 2001 was celebrated in space. Dan Barry is in there. Dan Barry's got he's the tall one there with the big smile. I love Dan Barry. Marty knows why, because he was on Survivor. He was on that program Survivor. He got kicked off, Marty, but he lasted pretty long, didn't he?
Yeah.
He was one of the top 4 or something like that.
He's in the top 10, but I'm
in the top 10.
in the top 4.
Yeah, and so an astronaut, Dan Barry, that was on the popular TV show Survivor, and Patrick Forrester's the other one there. So, and then finally, by the way, I wanted to point out that's the space station right there up above the picture, just basically beyond, a tubular structure with a big solar panel on it. Nothing like we see today, 20 years later, when it's finished form. In 118 was launched on August 8th and came back August 21st, almost 13 days in space. And this was Scott Kelly's command. And Charlie Hobaugh was his pilot, and Charlie is let's see, Kelly's at the top. Hobaugh is over here to the right. That is Tracy Caldwell, besides Scott Kelly, and Barbara Morgan. Waited 21 years to be the first teacher to go to space. She was the number 2 chosen behind Krista McAuliffe. Down at the bottom behind her is Rick Machiccio. And had the opportunity to meet him. He's now working with Northrop Grumman, and people don't even call him an astronaut, though he's been in space like 3 times and a couple hundred days. Great guy. And Canadian Space Agency, Dave Williams there at the bottom, and above him is the other one is Hobaugh, Alvin Drew. Is there? No, that's not Alvin Drew on 118 there. Huh. Alvin Drew flew in space. I'll bet he replaced the guy on the right. That's interesting, Marty. There's one crew member there missing, Alvin Drew, and the guy above the Canadian must have been scratched, and I'll have to look that up. But they had a poster made, the stylized poster there, and here's there's Alvin Drew there. And Hobaugh, Caldwell, and Williams. Yeah, I pointed them all out. So, well, I'm curious now, so I'll check into that. This patch of 118, as we talk about the patches sometimes, with Space Shuttle Endeavour and its mission to complete the assembly. You see the robotics on there, the 118, the gold astronaut symbol overlays the truss segment that they took up. The 7 stars and the red maple leaf signify the American and Canadian crew members flying on Endeavour.
The Mark Cusack is saying it's Clayton Anderson.
Clayton Anderson, okay. Thank you, Mark. And he was replaced by Drew for some reason on this mission. Thank you, MarQ, out there. So those are our shuttles of that are orbiting the Earth right now in the month of August. And when Karan Conklin, our executive director, and myself were working up this concept of the shuttles and juxtaposing them. In fact, I've got a sheet here, an Excel spreadsheet that Karen's put together for me, where we put the dates of the shuttles. And I said to her, there'll be some time in the year where there's no shuttles at all flying, okay? And by golly, we found a gap here. August 23rd to August 26th. Those 4 days in August, no shuttles during its 30-year history were orbiting Earth. Now, the only crew I can think of orbiting Earth, Marty, of Americans would be Skylab 2, the second group of astronauts to go up, commanded by Al Bean. I think we're in orbit this time. I could be wrong. I need to rethink that a second there. But no shuttles from orbiting Earth from August 23rd to 26th, and I'll bet we don't encounter that again until December, when there's not many shuttle launches. But there's your 8 of the 9 orbiting Earth this moment in space history. Now, we're going to segue into a little astronomy. This is a bolide, a meteor behind me, okay? That was photographed last night at Fort Davis, Texas, by an amateur astronomer named Gary. That's the only way he identified himself on spaceweather.com. And this is before sunrise, all right? So we all have been thinking about the best meteor shower that everybody knows, the Perseid Meteor Shower. And the Perseid Meteor Shower is happening right when the full moon happens tonight, all right? The Sturgeon Moon. This is a beautiful photograph by my friend Steve Rissmiller. He lives about 10 miles north of here in Mims, and took this full moon, a couple full moons ago, looking beautiful. A great photo because the Maria, the dark areas, are very distinct. Too many people don't expose for the moon, you photographers out there, and it just looks like a flashlight looking at you in the sky. Well, you got to massage those exposures a little bit to get the beautiful landscape that Steve Rissmiller's captured here with the full moon. The full moon of August has many names given to the Native American cultures of our great country. The Sturgeon Moon is the most popular because I'll bet Dave Stang knows this, Marty, up there in Michigan, that the big sturgeon, and it's a big fish, all right, they are mostly caught in the month of August in the warm waters of the Great Lakes. So that is why the Indians up there, the Blackfoot Indians were up there, Cherokee, all kinds of tribes were up there around that water, of course. And they caught a lot of sturgeon, so they called it the Sturgeon Moon, because you could depend on a good old sturgeon supper, I guess, several times in August. It's also called the Corn Moon because it's actually called the Green Corn Moon because the corn's not ready to harvest right now, but the corn is pretty tall and very green. The Black Cherry Moon is another name for it for obvious reasons, and then there's a lot of obscure names in different cultures around the world. But the full moon's always noticed. But for those of you that have written off the Perseid meteor shower this year, I beg to differ. Despite the full moon, you will see plenty of meteors, very bright ones though, but it is still going to be a better night tonight and tomorrow morning than 95% of the other nights of the year, all right? So I'm going to tell you the best time to look for them here in just a minute. So stay curious because we're going to talk about what meteors are real quick. And here's a beautiful photograph that I took off of Space Weather where you see the Milky Way, very stylized. Now, this is not one photograph. This is a photographer that has put dozens of photos and streaks. I'm not too sure that he may have made some of those streaks up in there for dramatic effect. But you see a meteor crash through the atmosphere and it lights up not even a second. You see it, wow. It happens so fast that you can't say, Marty, look up there. By the time he looks, it's gone. And what that is a piece of cosmic debris, probably the size of a grain of sand. And at 30,000 miles an hour floating through our solar system, when it hits the Earth's atmosphere, it burns up just like friction of rubbing your hands together. But it's instantaneous in that energy of 30,000 miles an hour in that little salt grain or sand grain sized piece of meteor. It's called a meteoroid, meteoroid, when it's floating through space. Burns it up instantly. We see it light. And now bigger ones, you might see a flash of light and a little smoky trail behind it that dissolves quickly. We call that a train. Amateur astronomers do it, a meteor train. And the Perseids are well known for that, okay? But this is perhaps the most popular one, but though it's going to peak tomorrow morning, all right, the best time to see it is going to be before sunrise. The stars, the meteors seem to emanate out of the constellation Perseus. And imagine those of you that have driven in snow, or some of you that have driven with your headlights on at night and your headlights in the snow ahead of the car looks like it's coming from a vector in front of you, though it's coming straight down. It's because you're moving through it, and it's making everything look like it's coming from a point up ahead. Well, the Earth is moving through a swarm of dust left by a comet called Swift-Tuttle. Swift-Tuttle is now a comet that doesn't throw off anything anymore. It is sort of dried up, if you will. Comets are like gigantic snowdrifts or small, puffy, fluffy, rocky worlds. Most aren't bigger than 10 miles. But this is the source because what it left in its tail over thousands of years, we know that we meet that orbit of its tail in every August, third week of August, like clockwork. That's what a meteor shower is, very predictable. So there are comets that are icy balls that have a tail behind them. In fact, they have two tails. One tail is material, the other tail is gases, all right? They can fluff off rocky core substances and so forth. And like I said, these comet pieces are the size of grains of sand, like little no-see-ums, we call them down here, the little mosquitoes that bite you up and you can't see them. Now, an asteroid is different from a comet because it's a complete rocky body. Some asteroids may have water or ice on them, but it's not in enough concentration that when the asteroid gets close to the sun, it melts off, so to speak, into a tail. That's what's happening with a comet. These tails only develop when they come into the inner solar system, and the sun's heat heats them up and blows the tail away. So an asteroid and comets can be sources of meteorites. A meteoroid is what an object is called that is floating in space. It's not actually floating, it's orbiting something, usually at 20 to 30,000 miles an hour, either just going through our solar system or in this stream of debris that was left by a comet, Swift-Tuttle, or other comets that cause meteors, like Halley's Comet is known for the Geminid meteors in the winter. But once that little piece of cosmic debris enters our atmosphere, or the atmosphere of any world, we have seen photographs of meteors going through the atmosphere of Mars. But we call it, that meteoroid becomes a meteor when it streaks through the sky and we see it burn up in our atmosphere. When it hits the ground, it is now a meteorite. All right. Now there's meteorites and there's meteor-wrongs. Marty, how do you tell if you have a meteor or not in your hand? Number one, it's going to feel a little bit heavier than what you would think it would be for the size if you picked up enough rocks. Number two, that's because there's iron or metal in there. So from a shale rock to a meteorite, if you use a magnet, it sticks to the magnet. Any rock sticking to a magnet, you could suspect maybe that's a meteorite. All right. But the best thing to do is go to a science center and have them check it out if you think you found a meteorite, or find our Brevard Astronomical Society or your local astronomy club, and you'll find someone there that might break your heart by saying, no, you got a piece of slag or something like that. But once in a while they turn up. I'll give you kind of a way that you can harvest some meteorites. Those of you that have rain barrels catching the water off your roof, if you take a big magnet and drag it on the bottom with a string or a rope, what you pull up are going to look like iron filings. Yep, that's meteor dust that you have on that magnet. So a couple cool things about distinguishing meteors. Meteors, what we see burn up in our atmosphere. A meteorite is when it hits the ground, and a meteoroid is what it is as it's traveling in our solar system. And now you know, and now you can help someone else stay curious with your meteor knowledge. There's the terminology from the, of course, there is an organization, the American Meteorological Society, where people join. And this shows you a couple different larger meteoroids that go through our atmosphere as meteorites can be quite spectacular. In fact, this one behind, and they can be called a bolide, particularly if they were the size of a softball or something coming in. The friction would make it blow apart because it's been very cold, like 200 below zero, for maybe 1 million years, maybe 10 million years, and all of a sudden it gets heated up in an instant, and so there can be a lot of dynamics there to blow it up. In fact, if a meteor would fall near you, which would be an amazing coincidence, but if you go upon a meteor that you'd actually see fall in a field and go up to it, if you touch it, how would you expect it to feel, Marty? A meteorite falling from the atmosphere. Well, like a rock. Well, you might think it'd be hot because it came through the hot atmosphere. But no, it'd probably be covered with frost and cold because the internal cold of that millions of years traveling around without encountering another body, it's very cold, and it would dissipate out and be actually frosty and probably cold to touch, like dry ice. So, but a bolide is what you could see. And there are plenty of fireballs. That's the one in the middle right here, fireball. Okay, that's a bolide at the bottom, and that'd be a fireball. A fireball difference in a bolide is that you don't see it blow up and go into pieces, which is quite spectacular. I've only seen a few of them in my life. And you get up in the morning, set your alarm about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock before sunrise, and you go out and get in a nice lawn chair. All right, have a cup of coffee, cold drink, whatever you like. Lay on a lawn chair. It might be a little chilly, so cover up. Might have bugs, so spray some insect repellent. And then just look up in the sky and scan around. And if you do that from about 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock until sunrise, you might see 4 or 5 very bright fireballs and maybe a handful or a dozen of Perseid meteors in the full moon. Now the full moon is going to rise when the sun sets today. That's around 8:15, I think, and it's going to rise and look gigantic. You're going to see the moon illusion. You can, like I was telling you the other day, you can always cover the moon with your little finger. All right, and but the moon will move from the east to the west, so it will be behind you if you're looking east, waiting for the sun to rise. And again, here's a graphic to show you that this is a bunch of artist concept and so forth. But imagine that this is the Earth's orbit around the sun, and that we are that this comet debris is kind of scattered out there a little bit individually, this graphic kind of shows that there's a lot of debris out there, and we're not always running into it. On the lower left, see where the orbit around the sun would take you out of this debris, and then for a period of time, and we're in some debris of Swift-Tuttle, the comet that creates the Perseid meteors, for a couple of weeks actually. But there's a peak where we know we're going through the thickest part of it, and that peak, unfortunately, is tomorrow about 11 o'clock in the morning. All right, so people on the other side of the world will be seeing a chance to be seeing more meteors in the full moon. But don't let the glare of the full moon disappoint you. All right, bright meteors can still easily be seen, and some can be spectacular. So we appreciate. I know Pam Shivik, she knows all about this. Hope I didn't say too many crazy things there, Pam. We still do want to get up with you. She's an awesome amateur astronomer, does a lot of outreach with her husband. David Frost, thank you for coming in. Christopher Mick, Larry Pushker. I packed your shirt today, Larry. Bob Swan is watching, okay. And William Whiting, we got a shirt for you. Ophelia is watching in Normandy, France. We got Dave Stange out there. And to Bob Swan, Marty wants you to give him a call, or call the American Space Museum, because we would love to have you on Stay Curious. Marty's got a note here that you worked on the shuttle landing strip, Bob Swan, and that'd be great to talk to somebody out there that did that. So thank you, Marty, for your note, and thank you, Bob, for staying curious with us. While we're doing some announcements here, I wanted to mention at the beginning, but I'll mention now, NASA communicator Nick Thomas, who, if you've ever seen an astronaut give his talk out there, you probably saw Nick come up and introduce him. He is going to make 2 appearances on Stay Curious on 2 consecutive Mondays, starting next Monday. We're going to talk about his career, and then the following Monday, we're going to talk about all the astronauts encounters out there at the Kennedy Visitors Complex, and contrast that with the excitement that's going on for the Artemis launch. So Nick Thomas, thank you for wanting to keep people curious. He is NASA's premier communicator out there, and I'm getting forward to getting to know Nick like you are here on Stay Curious next Monday, and I'll show you a picture of him. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But here is boy, this is the best if you see one like this, and right there at the end, see where it got bright, Marty, and burst? That's what we call a fireball, all right? It streamed in, and right at the end, it blew up. And that could be by the atmospheric pressure. Most of these things are this grains of a sand grain or salt grain, okay? In fact, I see the Pleiades star cluster up above there at the top of the frame. And Orion is right off my shoulder here. There's Orion's 3 stars of Orion's belt, and Betelgeuse and Rigel. Bellatrix, and there's the belt of the sword of Orion. So hope that you can see stuff like this tonight. I'm going to get up and give it a try. Here again is another photographer who put a lot of different images together that he took during a Perseid meteor shower to show you how they emanate out of the constellation Perseus. Purely an optical illusion, because that's the direction that the Earth is looking in as we are orbiting around our sun. So, and meteor time is also a good time to think about if you are fed up with politics and maybe just praying to get it over with already. Okay, so we add that to our little bit of Stay Curious comedy hour here, Marty, and the Chuckle Fest continues. So order your Cali t-shirts, everybody, and get out and get you a little moonshine, and then that big old sturgeon full moon, and that's the kind of moonshine you can't get too much of. And you'll see some meteors after midnight. Before midnight, probably not so many, because we actually turn, the Earth is turning and facing into our orbit after midnight. So we're like looking out the front windshield of the car instead of the side windows in the back, like we are during the daytime and the early evening before midnight. So get up about 3 o'clock. Have your lawn chair set up out there and just plop down in it and wake up, and you'll probably see a beautiful night. You'll hear sounds of the night. You'll enjoy something of the night, so it won't be a waste of time. So, Marty, thank you for a good show, and thank you for all of you watching us today. And yes, Bob Swan, we'd love to have you on the show and talk about your career out there at Kennedy Space Center. So, and we will not have Triple T tomorrow. He's got some things to do and might be out of pocket for a few weeks. So we're going to try to bring Triple T back on a once a month basis there. Hard to cook up all kinds of tales from the White Room every week. And he assures me a lot of those tales he just can't tell without getting in trouble. So, but it's all good. And we will have a regular Stay Curious program tomorrow with Marty's help. And wanted to thank everyone here at the American Space Museum. We've had our reopening after our beautiful carpets put down. We've got a new reception desk area. It looks a lot better. And so we've been very busy the last 3 days with a lot of families coming in here, getting ready those trips in before school starts. But we also welcome a lot of homeschoolers here. So, and we look forward, Marty, don't we, to seeing you here in our American Space Museum someday. And until that happens, I'm Marquette saying, stay curious and bridge the space between us.